Starting this step, let's look at a demo for ECS, Elastic Container Service. I'll type in ECS in here, Elastic Container Service, highly secure, reliable, and scalable way to run your containers. Let's go and pick this up. Amazon ECS makes it easy to deploy, manage, and scale Docker containers. You can run applications, services, and batch processes. Let's get started with ECS. What we are doing now is we are making use of Amazon ECS using Fargate. So we are using the serverless approach to run ECS. Another important thing to remember is that Fargate does not have a free tier. So this demo is not part of the free tier. What I would recommend you to do if you want to remain in the free tier and if you don't want to be billed is to just watch the video and do not do the demo. Whenever we are talking about ECS, there is a hierarchy. The first thing that we would need to create is something called a cluster. Cluster is nothing but the hardware that you would need to run your applications. So you'd create probably a cluster with a set of nodes. What do you want to run in your cluster? You'd want to run microservices. And you might have multiple instances of each of these microservices. That's why you have concepts of containers, tasks, and services. Container is nothing but the final container that you would want to run, the container of a microservice. There are certain situations in which you might want to run two containers together. And that's why in ECS, you have a concept of task. A task is nothing but a group of containers. Most of the times in a task, you would just have one container. But task also gives you the flexibility to run multiple containers. And service is nothing but a group of tasks. For example, let's say I want 10 instances of a microservice. I can define that on my service. You can say I would want to have 10 instances of this specific task, and the service would ensure that there are 10 instances always running. This might be a little complex to understand right now. Let's do the demo and you'll be able to understand it really well. So the first thing that we are choosing is what application, what microservice you'd want to deploy to your cluster. Let's choose the sample app which is present in here. You can see the Docker container image for it in here. The Docker container image is HTTPD, version is 2.4, and we are configuring a memory of 0.5 gig. So we are configuring 512 MB of memory for it, and we are configuring 0.25 virtual CPUs for this specific container. So as part of our container definition, we define what is the image that contains the microservice, how much memory we want, how much CPU do you want. The next thing you would configure is a task definition. A task definition is nothing but a blueprint for your application. For now, let's keep it simple and take the defaults for this and click next. So we have defined the container and the task until now, and we are ready to define our service. A service allows you to run and maintain a specific number of tasks. Earlier, we created a task for our sample app. And now we would want to say, I would want to have at least 2 instances of this task running all the time. That's where you can configure your service. What I'll do is I'll click edit in here. And I would say I would want to have 2 instances of this specific task running. In addition, I also want to make use of an elastic load balancer. So I would go ahead and choose a load balancer type of application load balancer. Let's take the defaults for the rest of the things and say save. So as part of our service definition, we are configuring that we would want 2 tasks and we would want to use a load balancer. I would say next. On the next screen, we can configure the cluster. As it says in here, the infrastructure in a Fargate cluster is fully managed by AWS. Fargate provides you a serverless option. You don't really need to worry about the cluster. You don't need to worry about what are the EC2 instances that are behind the cluster. You don't really need to worry about what is the hardware, what is the software, what is the operating system that you'd want to associate with your EC2 instance. When we are making use of Fargate, all those decisions are made for you by AWS. All that you need to worry about is defining your workload. We have already defined our workload as part of our container, task, and services. So let's go ahead and run it. I'll say next. On the next screen, we can review the configuration we have set up. So we have a container, task, and a service, and we have also configured a cluster. So we are running a sample app. We said we would want 2 instances of the sample app, and we took the default name for the cluster. Let's go ahead and say create. AWS has started creating resources for our service. As it says in here, it might take up to 10 minutes. Right now the status is 7 of 10 complete. I would recommend you to leave this window running until it becomes 10 of 10 complete. While you wait for the service to get ready, go ahead, grab a coffee, and I'll see you on the other side.